It is time for Common Sense Ohio, coming at you with a constant variety of common sense, the thrill of Norm's nuggets, and the agony of the debate.
What?
There's a Norm's Nuggets at the end. Yeah, okay. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So anyway, commonsenseohioshow.com, where you can check us out. Check out all the old episodes there. Check us out on social media. That is Facebook. That is YouTube. That is wherever Rumble is had. We are there. If you want to subscribe, we would much appreciate it. If you would share, we would much appreciate it. It's really easy. See, we do this week in and week out, and it takes our personal time out of our personal lives, as well as my business life and Norm's business life and Brett's business life, which is, by the way, where Brett is right now. And he's got a business meeting this morning and couldn't attend. But the show always goes on, and any support you guys give us is much appreciated. If you've got questions, topics, etc., commonsenseohioshow.com. We will cover it there. Another quick housekeeping announcement. Yours truly, Steve Palmer. This show sort of started as Lawyer Talk, which was my podcast that's been going on for a number of years now. And because we devoted so much time to get this thing launched, the Lawyer Talk show sort of took a back seat for a bit, but it is back, and it is back in full force. People are the word is out. So check out lawyertalkpodcast.com if you like the old format of answering questions, etc. I'm taking questions online, answering them. So there's a Q&A series, there's breakdowns, it's all the stuff everybody used to like. So without further ado, we'll get into it. I've always got a World War II fact of the day, and this one is sort of significant because on the 6th of September, 1945, any guesses, Norm?
6th of September, 1945. Atomic bomb?
No.
Trying to think of what it could be. It's not VJ Day, is it?
Well, on the surrender of the Japanese was accepted.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So a consequence of the atomic bomb.
A direct consequence. And so that, it's a pretty significant day.
Yeah,
huge. And what's interesting is that it took the atomic bomb to cause the surrender.
Two of them. Yep.
Yeah, two of them, yeah.
Yep.
So the war in Europe ended in June, and we didn't get a surrender from the Japanese until September.
Yeah.
And so think about, and if you think about what, there's a huge debate about the atomic bomb. Anybody saw the movie recently or last year would know. And, it's such a...
and it was debated in real time with Truman. There were people going to him saying, drop it on a purely military target if you're going to drop it.
Show force and
instead of on a city.
Yeah.
So, like to this day, in Dresden, Germany, there are hard feelings against the British because there was one night, and then British bombed at night. We bombed Dresden during the day. And between the U.S. and England, they killed like 100,000 people in Dresden.
Yeah, and this idea of bombing cities and civilians, I think it all started as a mistake, and I have to research it. Yeah. But there was like on one of the sides, they mistakenly bombed a civilian location, and that's like, well, hey, you're going to do it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it more, and then that ends to the firebombing of Dresden.
Yeah, total war.
Yeah,
when Sherman went through Atlanta, he burned Atlanta down. Yeah, I mean, total warfare.
Yeah, scorch the earth,
and. Curious statistic, which continues to blow me away, is the firebombing of Tokyo, which means flammable, to light all the straw and wooden homes and all this. It killed more people than Nagasaki and Hiroshima combined.
Wow.
Which was conventional bombing of Tokyo. Killed more people than the two nukes.
Well, I mean, this was hotly debated because the Japanese were not going to surrender. It was to the last man. I mean, they were going to fight. We were going to go island hopping.
Children and women.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody.
And they were so indoctrinated with this idea that the Americans were these evil people that were going to be these brutal conquerors. And, of course, I guess that makes sense because that's what the Japanese did in Nanking. And
really what sealed the deal is so the military did not want to surrender to the U.S. They wanted scorched earth. And what sealed the deal was Hirohito was, the emperor was considered divine, and he got on the radio, and the Japanese people had never heard his voice before. He had never deigned to go down so low as to give a radio broadcast. And he said, lay down your arms, the war is over, we're surrendering. And then the Japanese people and the military pretty much obediently complied.
Most of them.
I
mean, it's like, I remember as a kid learning about this. And why did I learn about it? Because of Gilligan's Island.
Good God.
There's an episode of Gilligan's Island where they find an old Japanese soldier on like hiding on the island. And, it just showed, and that was true. I mean, like guys were coming out of the woodwork years later and still sort of hunkered down and ready to go fight the war. So anyway.
Did he kidnap Mary Ann or the other one?
Well, it depends.
They were lookers, man.
Ginger or Mary Ann?
Which one?
The age-old debate. And I think there were two Gingers. So,
love it.
Pop culture.
The other thing. So last week we didn't do a World War II thing, but we could have.
No, we did. We ventured into something.
But we didn't do one at the beginning, like this segment. And we should note, 85 years ago, on September the 3rd, Germany invaded Poland and kicked off the European wing of World War II.
Yeah,
pretty epic. So, anyhow.
All right. Well, let's get to it. We're going to buzz through today because we've got some deadlines to meet.
Yep. So, little polling analysis, real fast. There is an odds maker that has been pretty on target in many elections, a guy by the name of Nate Silver, who is a Democrat and has announced he is voting for Kamala Harris. So I just want to say that up front. He has said Trump's odds of winning just a couple of weeks ago was 52% versus Harris 48%.
Yep.
Trump now, he says, is 61%. Harris 39% chance of winning. So whatever convention bounce she got, she is falling behind.
Well, it's interesting because but it's still razor thin in all the big battleground states. It's razor thin in Michigan. It's razor thin. Yeah.
Well, he's not talking about the popular vote.
I understand.
He is talking about the odds of winning.
He's talking about the odds of winning. Now, he also predicts, if I'm not, the article I read is the same one you read. He also predicts that Kamala will win the popular vote.
Yeah.
And
who cares?
Trump will win the Electoral College.
Right.
So
fine.
But it's still I believe too close to call.
Yeah. Well, we're a long ways away. But I will mention today is the very first day some states are voting so we haven't had the vice presidential or presidential debates yet, and yet Delaware and North Carolina voters can start voting today.
Isn't that crazy?
So we have an election season, not an election day. I think this is terrible for the country.
This party of, quote, democracy, first of all, they never define what the heck that means. And we're not a democracy, by the way. We're a republic. But I get it. They're the ones that basically put a candidate forward who had never been, not one vote cast for her. That doesn't seem very democratic.
No.
They're opening the borders, so they want immigrants illegally here, essentially, to be able to vote.
Yes.
Yeah. They want people to go knock on doors in high rises and old age homes
and harvest
and
votes.
Take their ballots and say, vote for my candidate.
Yeah.
They have
and I'll help you.
Prevented, legally speaking, and through executive edict, JFK or RFK Jr. from exiting the ballot.
Yep.
Yet, as we pointed out last week, how do we say Cornwall? What's his name?
They didn't want him on the ballot, fought him tooth and nail, and now they, hypocritically enough, when he drops out of the race, they want him to be on the ballot because they think some people will dumbly vote for him.
Right. So they're going to vote. Yeah, they think he's going to take Trump's votes. Yeah. And then their other candidate, the guy who's running as a Democrat, I keep forgetting his name, Norman. Cornel West.
Cornel West.
Yeah, I've got coming from the peanut gallery. Cornel West helps us out. So it's like that. None of this sounds very democratic to me.
No.
It just is like, look, if your candidate is so good, then put her on the damn stage and ask her what her platform is. Then let's have a vote with people who are allowed to vote. Let's if I had anybody on their side on cross-examination, I'd be like, so what's your purpose then for leaving RFK Jr. on the ballot? Why do that? Like they say, you never ask why on cross-examination because you give the witness a chance to explain. But there's no there's no answer I couldn't deal with here.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? Wouldn't it be fair not to have him on the ballot so he doesn't take votes from one or the other? Are you afraid of losing the election?
Well, he's
straight up.
He's going to court to get his name taken off the ballot.
And they're fighting it
actively. Like he said, I'm not running anymore.
And I don't care what the rules are on when you're allowed to do it or not do it. It's like there was time at that point to get this done. So anyway, he's on the ballot in Michigan, I think. So that's awesome. And I think in Atlanta, I think in Georgia too.
So by the time we have our next show, the single debate that has been agreed to is on September the 10th on ABC, concurrently broadcast on every other network.
Yeah.
90 minutes between Trump and Kamala. And apparently she is in the cave. So Trump is doing podcasts and press conferences and all kinds of stuff, rallies. She is in a cave somewhere prepping for this debate, even as we speak.
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing, but she's certainly not answering any questions in public. But here's the thing: if I were in her camp, if I were saying, "Let's prep you for the debate," you know how you do that? You get out and talk to people.
Absolutely.
What we do here at this table, this is like let's take a sideways glimpse at podcasting for a second. What we do at this table sharpens my skills talking to folks in real life. It sharpens my skills in the courtroom. It sharpens my skills. My listening skills, my critical thinking skills, my tap dancing on my feet, dealing with questions skills. I mean, this is like the best thing she could do is get a platform that is understand what her position is on all these issues,
right,
and then go out and defend it in the public, because then when she has to do it on stage, she'll be prepared to do it.
Right.
And if the real question here is not what she's going to say; it's how Trump's going to handle it. So if Trump is smart, there's like an easy answer to almost everything.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do it?
Right.
Why didn't you do it?
Yeah.
You've been vice president. You claim to have been an integral part of the Biden-Harris administration. How come you guys didn't do this?
Exactly right.
Or do you think Joe Biden isn't capable of doing this? Then why is he still president?
Border crime economy, BCE. That's what this.
You heard it here first from Norm. BCE.
That's all Trump should talk about, and he should, like you said, blow it right back at her. Hey, you're in office right now. Why aren't you and Joe doing all this wonderful shit?
And Trump is capable of this because he did it to Hillary.
Yeah.
He did it to Hillary. Like, look, why didn't you guys cut the taxes if you were going to do this?
Exactly.
It's like,
you were a senator. You were Secretary of State. You were first lady with tremendous, and I don't know if people remember, but Bill put Hillary in charge of health care. That entire debate.
It's sort of like the border czar that she's now denying she was the border czar.
Yeah.
Did you see her latest ad where she is walking next to Trump's border wall?
It's just too much.
It's awesome.
It's just too much.
Even the Dems are getting at her or jumping on her for that. I think CNN had some criticisms about that.
Well, this reparations bill that is blowing up in California, because she was senator from California. She was,
and probably supported it. I don't know.
She was asked directly, would you sign reparations bill? Well, it has blown up. Newsom probably won't sign anything, and the Democrats took the big payout bill off of the table in California, and they say it was done specifically not to blow back on Kamala during the election season. So what reparations stand, there was an appropriation of $12 million whole dollars to pay black folks in California, which what would that be? $10 a piece or something? I mean,
sort of like a class action where you get 50 cents. You got 25 cents because you banked at Chase Bank.
I mean, it's like, so, that's a great question in this debate coming up. Hey, Kamala, are you pro-con reparations? Are you pro-con fracking? Are you pro-con, all these other issues? And then follow it up with why.
Explain why you changed your mind. This is like
because I'm running for president.
This is Media 101. Are you changing your mind because you had an actual genuine policy shift? You actually thought about it? It's sort of like the old movie Working Girl when what's her name was trying to who is the girl in Alien?
Oh, Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver is trying to steal Melanie Griffith's idea. And the old, the Trask himself, I think was the guy's name.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, so tell me how did you really come up with the idea? When did you come up? The impetus, when did it happen? Because Melanie Griffith had a great answer for that and Sigourney Weaver did not. And this is what needs to happen. It's like, okay, Kamala, I get it. We all change our mind. We all have different shifts. We all learn more. That's what we want to do right here at this table. We want to grow and we want to learn. And it's perfectly acceptable to change your mind. But you better be able to explain how and why.
So the wall she's walking next to in the ad, right, is supposedly Trump's, quote, what she called it, vanity wall from the Middle Ages.
Yeah, the Middle
And now
Ages
she's in
vanity
favor
wall.
of the Middle Ages, I guess.
Apparently.
And she's in favor of it'll be Kamala's vanity wall.
Which is fine. So if she got up there and said, look, I said those things at that time because I thought this was a horrible idea. Now I understand the consequences of an open border and it's no longer a viable solution. So I'm now in favor of the wall. Now, look, would I believe her necessarily? No, I would still think it's for votes. But that's what she should say. She won't, though. She's not capable of saying that.
And what Trump would say is, so Kamala, what you're saying is, I was right and you were wrong.
That's right. She has to take that hit. The problem is she has no cover for this unless she tells the truth.
Right.
So if the truth is she just shifted her position, then she could look at Trump and she goes, you know what, Donald, you were right. We were wrong about this one, but it doesn't mean that I shouldn't be president. It's like there's an answer she could come up with if she were properly coached. It won't happen. She won't do it. And all Trump has to do is ask those types of questions. I hope he can. And I guess she's finally agreed to the terms of the debate, which is same as the Biden debates. The mics will be silent when you're not talking. There won't be any audience. I don't know what other crap was, but
oh my God, it's too much. And the idea that they're only going to debate once, so she's going to do terrible. And if I were her, I'd want more debates because she will probably get better, as you said, Steve. Practice makes perfect. She should agree to about 4 debates.
She can't.
But she's not capable, look, apparently.
The Democratic platform is, we're going to put this, it's almost like a movie. We're going to put this candidate up there who looks pretty good, and we're going to paint her up and really sort of polish and sand the edges of this.
Yeah.
And we're not going to tell you a thing about what's inside, not one iota of what is really going on, because it's really just more of the same.
You're going to buy a generic
maybe
can.
Maybe even like more of the same.
A generic can of fruit without the ingredients being spelled out. That's what this is.
So they don't want the world to know her positions because they're horrible. It's like it's awful.
Speaking of illegal immigration and horrible things and Kamala's friends in California, on Newsom's desk right now is this $150,000 illegal immigration first mortgage donation by the taxpayers of California, right? And I don't think Newsom's going to sign it. I can't imagine.
So this is so illegal immigrants get 0% financing or they get a stipend. How much do they get?
$150,000.
$150,000.
Up to $150,000 or 25% of the cost of the home. Meanwhile, native-born and legal immigrants, right, to California, big fat nothing. So, I mean, it's. If
you live there, can you imagine this?
I can't imagine.
It's baffling.
And they're like $30 billion in debt in California.
See, but this is the nonsense. Like almost like even Newsom himself has to have some semblance of common sense. I'd love to have him here to talk to him about this. Like, come on, this is insane.
He is. I can't. So the bill passed.
But he can't sign this.
He can't sign.
Like he backs this crap to look good for a while, but then he probably hoped it wouldn't pass, and now it's passed. Right. And now what's he going to do? He's got to put his money where his mouth is. If he signs this bill, I can't. If I lived in California, I would be absolutely livid.
So on Bill Maher's show, Nancy Pelosi was a guest, and he asked her about this. And he said, she says, I'm in favor of helping people get their first house. He drilled down a little bit and said, Nancy, this is for undocumented illegals.
Yeah, this is illegal. These are illegal immigrants.
So her reaction was, well, I know how to fix that bill. We're going to document these people.
Right. Well, so we'll just change the definition.
That's right.
So this is the classic leftist trope. So they're not undocumented anymore because we have now redefined what they are. So they're actually they're going to come up with like
it's
temporary or like pending citizenship or something, and they'll give them free loans.
It's over the top. I thought this would be another outrageous thing to talk about for just a second. The U.S. Department of the Interior, in the face of the recent Supreme Court decision throwing out the Exxon and the shrimp boat case, right?
Yeah, the Chevron case.
The Chevron, I had the wrong oil company. The Chevron doctrine, and in the shrimp boat case, where they said, basically, Congress has not given you total unfettered freedom to just create law. You have to somehow stick to the essentials. And what the Department of the Interior has done, despite that decision, is they are promoting a notice of proposed rulemaking is in effect on the concept of the Secretary of the Department of the Interior being able to control, quote, natural processes, unquote, on land in the United States. Your land,
what the hell
not
does
just
that mean?
federal. So that means rain, snow, wind, ground cover, trees.
Right.
So basically, let's suppose that you are in a Dust Bowl state, right? And you want to go plant shrubbery or trees or something.
Or the opposite. I have a wooded lot. I want to take the trees down.
You want to take the trees down. He's going to have the authority to put orders on what you can and cannot do on
Folks,
your own land.
These are people who want to take control of your life, and they don't want you to be able to vote on it. They just think that they are smart enough to know.
Yeah.
This is like this is elitism at its worst. These people just think they know best. They should have all the power to fix these things. And the separation of powers concept, the Supreme Court concept, the idea that the president could veto this, that, or the other. It's like they think those are just impediments in the way of them solving all the problems of the world for you.
So at the DNC convention, they're all, amping up. They're the party of liberty. They're the party of freedom. But when it comes down to actually being the party of liberty and freedom, this is the kind of crap that a Democrat president, radical, which Biden is, and the people that are running Biden, because he's just a figurehead, but that's what Kamala is going to be like too. She's not really going to run anything. It's going to be Valerie Jarrett. It's going to be the same old Obama guys and gals that run her like they ran Biden.
Well,
and this is what you get. Anti-liberty, anti-freedom.
Yeah,
you buy a piece of land, you're going to have to basically hope the federal government lets you plant a peach tree. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is nuts.
It's nuts.
Absolutely crazy.
Or
it's almost as
collect
crazy.
Water, have a cistern, coming off your roof. You won't be allowed to do that if he says, well, I want natural rain to all go on the ground. I don't want you to
You're
collect.
not allowed to hoard the water. So no, this is almost as stupid as somebody, like, imagine if somebody said you're a shrimp boater or you're a fisherman, and not only are we going to put an observer on your boat, but you have to pay for that
You
person.
have to pay for that.
Oh, wait a minute. That did happen.
Yeah, that did happen. And the
That
Supreme
was the
Court
case.
said, wait a minute, there's no congressional authority for you to
No,
force people.
There might be congressional authority, but the Congress didn't do it.
No, the Congress did not give them that authority.
Right. It was.
I mean, in essence, that was forcing you to pay for an employee, who wasn't your actual employee.
Pay for an employee who could tell on you if they didn't like what you were doing. It's like you
got to be kidding.
You got to be kidding me.
It's
like it's bad enough to stick a government agent on your boat. But
yeah.
Like, imagine that. So where does that go? I mean, remember reading the amendments about like quartering?
Yes.
And thinking, yeah, that's relegated to that. That'll never happen again. And now it's happening. It's like these people. That's very akin to quartering.
Yes, it is.
You got to keep British soldiers in your house.
Yeah.
And you got to put government agents on your boat. And these, even if you didn't have to pay their salary, it's not free.
And yet those East Coast Yankee states are going to vote for Kamala. I mean, it blows your mind.
It is mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling that people, in spite of the fact that they're having their rights dissipated by this administration, of which she is an integral part, will then vote for her, either absent-mindedly or out of some kind of reflex that when they see a D, they fill in the
right.
square.
This is what. So it's like I think about this. If I'm running a business, think all you small business folks out there who have put your blood, sweat, and tears. Maybe you started as an electrician and you thought, I can do this on my own. I'm going to go out and I'm going to start my own business. So you bought your van. It was the first van you bought, and you have to fix it every week until you're able to upgrade it. And finally, you got the tools you need, and you keep your credentials up because it costs a fortune to pay for all that stuff, all your licensing, etc. Every time you go get a permit, you do all this stuff, and then the government says, you know what? I know you found your margin finally, and you can bring home a decent living for your family doing it on your own. Guess what?
Yeah.
We're going to put the inspector in your van. And not only that, so you got to take this guy with you wherever you go, but you have to pay his salary. Like, think about this. This is what these people want to do to you.
Because if they can do it on a shrimp boat, which they tried to do,
and granted, the Supreme Court,
anywhere.
The Supreme Court knocked it down, but they don't like the Supreme Court because it knocked it down. They want to get rid of the Supreme Court. They want to add judges. I mean, look, their platform is my buddy, the ex-chair, Jay always says, look, it's not a mystery what they want to do. They tell you.
Yeah.
They want to pack the court. They want to get rid of the Senate or add more senators in their favor. They want to get rid of the Electoral College and redistrict everybody so they win forever.
So here's the difference between a conservative administration like George Bush Jr. and the present administration. So when Roe v. Wade was challenged, right, by one of the states, George Bush's Department, of Justice defended the Supreme Court position in Roe v. Wade, even though George Bush himself was against Roe v. Wade. It was the law of the land, and the Department of Justice entered litigation with one of the states on behalf of that Supreme Court decision, which they said, hey, this is the law of the land. We are going to represent what the current state of the law is.
Right. Imagine that.
But, because that's an intellectually honest and intellectually consistent point of view, that the executive branch would honor what the judicial branch says. What does Biden do? He gets turned down on the student loan thing, and he keeps reinventing it, and he keeps getting turned down in consecutive decisions by the Supreme Court because he will not honor those decisions.
Right.
He's just going to keep banging away.
So like you said, look, the Supreme Court struck this down. Now they're back at it.
Yeah.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care. One might think intellectually, like you said, if you're going to be intellectually honest about this and you're really and by that, I think what you're really saying is, look, I appreciate the balance of powers in the government. I appreciate that while I disagree with the Supreme Court on this point,
right,
I am bound by it.
I'm bound by it.
And I, as a government actor, at least have to comport with that. Now, I can still try to push the envelope here and there and do what I want. That's what the government's supposed to do.
Like legislation, which the student debt relief, Biden would not go to Congress and get.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So, but instead what they do is they ignore it and keep doing more of the same and then gripe that the Supreme Court is corrupt or something. And it's like, just give them all the power in the world, Norm. Here's the theme of the day. Give them all the power in the world, and they will solve all the world problems.
Yeah, so they call it executive action. Dude, this is dictatorship. It's
authoritative action.
Yeah, this is what fascism looks like when you just steamroll the judicial branch. It's almost like what Pablo Escobar did. He blew up the Supreme Court in Colombia, physically blew it up with dynamite, killed a bunch of the jurists in the building, and destroyed all the records. Without doing violence physically, this is what the Biden administration's doing. And Harris has been quoted that with a stroke of her pen, she can change the law. With a stroke of her pen, and she's of course backpedaling on that.
I say yes, we can, Joe. Remember that in the debate about guns? He's like, "Oh, there is the Second Amendment. We can't do that." Yes, we can, Joe.
Stroke of the pen. Yeah, right. Well, speaking of, Steve calls them Spectre, the World Economic Forum,
Spectre,
and crazy shit that the U.S. is pushing under Biden and Harris. Janet Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury, has been promoting and has joined in with other countries, primarily in Europe, to create a world taxation authority.
Oh my God!
So you can't you can't go to the U.S. or the Virgin Islands or Switzerland or wherever with your money and bail out of some crazy tax, regulations in the U.S. and just, send your money overseas into some other kind of world of national control in another country, England, Switzerland, wherever you want to put your money. She wants to make that impossible, okay, by having a one world taxation authority. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you take your money and try to go to what's that island in the Caribbean? It's not the Virgins, but it's one of the other safe harbors where you could take your money.
Caymans,
thank you. Places like that. She wants basically.
Well, Norm, do you support people avoiding taxes? If not, then you have, or if you do, if you think that's bad, if you all these criminals out hiding their money, then you need to give the World Economic Forum all the power to solve it. That doesn't seem like it's wrought with problems. Or
So-
fraught or wrought? Fraught with problems.
So this crazy idea, for example, of unrealized capital gains. If there was a world taxation authority and these people who were worth supposedly, she says, $100 million to start with, if these people were to move their money to the Caymans in order not to pay, okay, the unrealized gains, they would just put all their stocks in some kind of LLC in the Cayman, and they own it. It's not a U.S. corporation, and so it wouldn't be taxed. This is how she would get them taxed anyway.
Yeah, it's
You got to be kidding me.
Look, are you going to get and you know how they're going to pay it? You know how they're going to collect it? You're going to have a chip on your hand, or you're going to have a chip on your forehead. Where are you going to choose it? I'll let the biblical scholars decide.
Let me scan you in, Steve.
Let me scan you in. So you're gonna take the mark.
I mean, it's also like what the British have in mind with free speech. They think that they can extradite U.S. citizens who want to comment on the British immigration system or lack thereof. And if I start blabbing, which I have, I'm going to now, I have on British forums announced my virulent opposition to illegal immigration.
They're gonna extradite you to Britain, Norm.
I say to the chief of police of London, frickin' try, dude. Frickin' try. Try to stop me exercising my First Amendment rights of free speech here in the United States that happens to get picked up in places like Brazil or England where they want to shut down forums, or in France with this Telegram case. You know, this is the exportation or the denigration of our constitutional rights, where other countries are going to control speech here in the United States. I say no way, no way. And give me liberty or give me death. I kind of believe that.
Well,
I kind of believe
we
that.
shall see if they come after you here in Johnstown, Ohio.
Yeah, have fun.
They'll probably stage the assault from the Intel factory.
Nothing would be better than video of me being dragged out my front door by British bobbies, with a little helicopter in my yard waiting.
It won't be the British bobbies. It'll be
SEAL Team 6 going to come and get me.
It'll be the government henchmen.
Come on. SEAL Team 6 would not do it. They would say that's an illegal order. They wouldn't do it. And then it would be me with SEAL Team 6 getting extradited. So,
well, look, let's talk a minute about Hunter Biden, because there's a good legal breakdown.
That's an awesome situation.
In the mix. So Hunter Biden has finally agreed to plead guilty to his numerous tax fraud counts. There's a couple things about this that I think are interesting. So one is that initially his lawyers sought to do a couple of different things. They sought to enter either something like a no contest plea. And people ask me all the time, what's a no contest plea? I was like, it's like a longer way around to get to a guilty plea, and not even that much longer. So if you're pleading no contest, what you're really doing is admitting all the facts and circumstances in the indictment. So you're admitting you did all those things, and then you're going to force the judge to enter a finding of guilty. If you enter a guilty plea, then you're saying, Judge, I am guilty. We don't even care if you find me guilty because I am saying I'm guilty. So you're admitting that you're guilty. You can't just go in the realm of plea bargaining. The government doesn't like this kind of crap. So if I'm negotiating with the government on behalf of Norm because he's going to get extradited and he's going to be charged with crimes over in England, and Norm says, well, look, I know I did it. I'm going to plead no contest. If I expect to get any break out of the government, in other words, if I'm going to get a reduction in the charges, or I'm going to negotiate some sentencing consideration, or I'm going to get some benefit for my dear friend and client Norm, then the government's probably going to say, look, we'll give you your deal, but he ain't pleading no contest to it. And I'm going to say, yes, he is. And they'll say, fine, then you don't get a no deal. It's like the old Caddyshack. Oh, then you don't get a no Coke. But and the same would go true with the other type of plea, or the same would be true with the other type of plea they're talking about, which is an Alford plea, ALFORD, and it's North Carolina versus Alford, I believe was the case. And Alford,
1970. I looked it up.
Yeah, so Alford is a case that basically says this: look, you can plead guilty, and your guilty plea is still intact, even if you say at the time you're pleading guilty, I am not guilty. And this boggles minds, because I hear this all the time from the general populace, and even some of my clients when the case first starts. I'd never plead guilty to something I didn't do. And I'm saying, well, not so fast.
Not so fast.
Because when you get the government, like Biden's DOJ crawling up your backside, or you got the British bobbies coming at Norm with their hats and their horses and their and their nightsticks, you've got the world raining down on you.
Yeah.
And if you lose the trial, say you're charged with, this happens all the time. You're charged with some sort of sexual abuse of your grandson or granddaughter.
Yeah, like Alfred was charged with murder.
Yeah, and you didn't do it. And look, if anybody out there doesn't think it's possible you can be wrongfully accused of such a crime,
oh, come on,
then go do the research. There's lots of exonerations, DNA exonerations, recantations. Lots of people get convicted of these crimes without later on vindicated.
Yeah.
So, look, say you're charged with rape and they offer you like a misdemeanor disorderly conduct,
right,
or criminal mischief,
and your public defender is 3 weeks out of law school or something.
Well, even if you've got top counsel,
yeah, and
because you're going to go to trial on that. I'm going to tell you,
you're going to get killed.
You may or may not win, and you could easily lose. And they say, well, how does that happen? I'm like, listen, wrongful convictions happen all the time. It can happen to you, and if you don't think it can happen to you,
come on,
then go roll the dice. And by the way, you take door number one, which would be a guilty plea to something that basically lets you go home, and in a year you get your record expunged or sealed, or you go to trial on raping your grandson, and if you lose, you got life in prison and you're never getting out.
Yeah,
all right. I'll take door number one.
Yeah.
So people do this all the time. And now the Alford pleas then are when people get to say, look, I'm pleading guilty, but I'm pleading guilty only to avoid the consequences and risks of a loss at trial. And the Supreme Court has recognized that as viable. So you can say, look, I didn't do it, but I'm pleading guilty because I just need to get this over with. And if I lose, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
All right. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen.
Yeah.
But whenever I do this for a client or with a client, I have to bake it into the deal. I don't just get to go show up and give an Alford plea, because if I do that, the government's going to say, whoa. The deal's off if you're entering an Alford plea.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here. And the other obstacle you run into in these kind of things, and I think this also happened here, is the judge can poo-poo this. So judges don't have to take no contest pleas. Judges don't have to take guilty pleas. Judges don't have to take Alford pleas.
Yeah.
This happens a lot. So there's a local judge here in one of the counties around Ohio that you have to show up in court, raise your right hand. So Norm would have to raise your right hand, and you would have to say, I swear to tell the truth, and here's what I did to commit this crime.
Yeah.
I posted on this thing, and I did this, and I did this, and I recognize I shouldn't have done that, and I broke the law, and now I'm guilty.
Yeah.
And some judges force that, and if you don't do it, if you're not willing or able to do that, or you say something different because you're just you're trying to weasel in a guilty plea, courts will reject it.
So, Steve, my understanding of this, the TikTok or timeline of how this went down, they had 100 eligible jurors, seated to be, to go through voir dire. Mm-hmm. They had 100 jurors on this case the same day. The prosecuting team probably spent weeks, if not months, prepping for this trial. Then on the day the trial's supposed to start, Abby Lowell, supposed to be this genius lawyer, right? On the day after 100 people are set aside to be picked and everybody's ready for a trial, the judge has scheduled several days for the trial. Mm-hmm. He then
Weeks, probably.
And he lays this egg on them that he wants to do this Alford or no contest type of plea. And I'm sure that seriously pissed off the prosecution and the judge,
Maybe.
Who were like, dude, you needed to do this like 3 weeks ago.
Maybe. So look, judges have different positions on this. I have resolved many, many cases as the jury is walking into the courtroom.
But I mean, I'm talking about as people, because they are people, right?
But sometimes
I'm sure it was upsetting.
Maybe. But you have to also understand, look, see, this one I'll push back on. Deals cases, criminal cases particularly, often get resolved like this.
Oh, sure, at the last.
Because everybody is like, holy crap, this is real. This could actually happen.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to blink. It's playing chicken. Some courts, some judges have policies. We're not going to take any plea after a week of, or as short of a week of trial or something like that.
Right. To avoid this. But it still happens. Because when the jury's coming in, it's still better to resolve the case than spend 4 weeks in trial. I got it. But I think, as human beings, they were pretty pissed off.
Maybe.
Because
They're happy today because they're not sitting in Hunter Biden's trial.
So this, by the way, was this case is about him evading the payment of $1 million and some change in federal taxes that were owed.
And it was only the tip of the iceberg of all the other crap. Yeah.
The more serious case was the Foreign Agent Registration Act violation that they let lapse. The statute of limitations lapsed on that, which is what Hunter and Joe were taking money from China, Ukraine.
Here's the snake in the grass that they're not. Here, somebody's considering it, I'm sure, because I'm not the smartest lawyer around. So before now, Hunter, if called into Congress, would take the fifth.
Yeah.
I can't answer because on the grounds that my answers may tend to incriminate.
And that's what he did.
That's what he did.
That's what he did.
Can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
There is no more criminal responsibility. He's already pled guilty. The case is over. Things he says, he's going to have a hard time taking the fifth. Now, if he takes the fifth on conduct that is uncharged, then that's going to get vetted out. So that itself will be very telling. So his ability to take the fifth has been not eliminated, but severely compromised, at least eliminated with respect to the tax evasions, and anything that was wrapped up into this deal is going to be covered. So
there's no plea deal, by the way, on this. When he pled guilty.
He pled straight up. Okay.
No plea deal.
Yep.
And, hey, Steve, he's got that gun case in Delaware to deal with, and that's coming up. That trial is coming up. So he's got that. He's got another case that I think it's Abby Lowell in that case also.
I thought they resolved that, didn't he? He was found guilty. That's all done.
No, the trial's coming up on that. Yeah. So maybe, he looked at this and said, well, that's the one where they may be really going to put me in prison.
He pled guilty in federal court. I'm almost positive.
Well, it could be the news reports got it wrong. They said that he has an upcoming trial in Delaware on the gun case. But, maybe they got that wrong. Certainly our media is not completely reliable.
All right. Well, we'll look it up. But at any rate, the interesting stuff, legally speaking, because Alfred pleas aren't something you see every day. At least the media doesn't. And, now maybe he doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, so somebody can actually dig in and put him under oath in a congressional hearing.
So, Steve, some more legal news I'd like to have your commentary on. Let's talk a little bit about these two school shooting cases. So the most recent one here this week, horribly, two teachers and two teenagers were killed and 9 injured.
Awful, absolutely awful.
In Winder, Georgia. Interesting that this 13-year-old boy, his father has been arrested and charged with murder in this case. And I'm just going to leap that somehow that involved him allowing access either voluntarily or sloppily, negligently, willfully negligently perhaps, in the storage of the firearms that were then taken to the school to commit these murders.
I mean, look, this is like all these other cases. There's failures at all levels. I think there was some... the kid made some comments at one point, and the police actually investigated.
The FBI interviewed the dad and the kid.
And the kid. And the dad says, no, he got guns, but he didn't have access. They're all locked up.
Yeah.
And, they're blaming the father, which this is the precedent that the case in Michigan set. We're going to start charging parents of kids who go commit murder.
Yeah. 13 years old, definitely a minor.
Yeah. So it's a stretch. I don't know the facts, I don't know the facts, but I know in Michigan, in that case, there were failures at every level. The school failed, the parents failed, everybody missed it. And this here too.
And they had a red flag law in Michigan.
So
that failed.
My take on this is if the FBI is basically blaming the father for something that they did too.
Well,
or the government is
here's the
blaming
thing.
for they did too.
So I heard the police chief at a press conference, and I have to agree with this. What were they supposed to do? So this kid was, posting wacky shit on the internet, right? His father said the firearms are locked up. He has no access.
Okay, so here's the question. Were the guns locked up?
Well, I'm just saying, if these things are true, he had not committed any violence, but he was posting crazy shit on the internet, and his father's guns were really locked up. Okay, if all those things were true, what were they supposed to do in advance of the shooting? Were they supposed to prospectively like Minority Report? Were they supposed to arrest this 13-year-old and put him in some kind of school for boys, behind barbed wire? What do you do in these red flag situations, if you want to call it that, where you know that you've got a possible nut, okay, but they haven't committed any crime yet?
Yeah, so it's a tough one, right?
What are you supposed to do?
What are you supposed to do? What's the dad supposed to do?
What's the FBI
supposed to do? But that's my point. Like, these are stretches of blame,
Yeah.
and but there were failures on every level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there were just failures on every level. So look, I don't have the answers. I just point out the weirdness. So the FBI comes. They had the same information the father did. What was the father going to do? What was the FBI going to do? What are they all going to do? And are we all willing to sort of give up our gun rights because some guy went and went crazy? It's like I don't
child.
think a child.
This is a child.
So it's horrible. Prayers to everybody involved, and everybody always says, "No, prayer. It does nothing." But neither does taking my guns. So
Well, I don't believe prayers don't do anything.
I agree with you.
Myself.
But stripping you, Norm, of your firearm rights because of this lunatic doesn't solve the problem either. So
Well, no, then I don't have a firearm to defend myself.
right. So
The other case I'd like to bring up, Steve, for your commentary, and this is really like almost the final thing I have today. And if there's anything else, we can do this. But in Nashville, the newspaper in Nashville called The Star published the 200 pages of the notes by this. I think her name was Audrey Hale or something like that. The shooter at the Covenant School who killed those middle school students and then committed suicide. She was a biological female, transitioning or claiming to be a male. She had 200 pages in this notebook, and apparently there's another 1,000 pages out there. The FBI told the Nashville Police Department, do not allow this to be put out there in public. Now, whether that was because they didn't want people to read that a trans person could be violent and could do a school shooting or what. But she went into this Christian school and killed all these kids. And basically, this notebook, which I've read several of the pages, say things like, if I can't be a boy, I mean, she directly addresses her transition. If I can't be a boy, then what good is life? Okay. And she talks about how jealous she is of bio males and wanted to be a bio male. So this really gets into the psychosis of people at the fringe of their sanity.
Well, I mean, look, that's right. So look, imagine I'm not going to do anything to defend this shooter, but this is evidence of the turmoil that mental turmoil this person was going through. Right? I mean, it's like
that's right,
and it's not like it says I'm going to go kill people because I'm mad at them. It's like this shows the internal conflict that nothing. I guess what I'm trying to say is this: none of the proposed policies around these transgender issues would have solved this.
No,
it's just envy for not being a boy or not being a girl or whatever it is. Yeah. So anybody who thinks that their policies would fix this manifesto sort of refutes that.
And I am in no way saying that somebody like Caitlyn Jenner or other people who are transitioning have any kind of mental illness. Nothing, of course, even close to this. So I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is there seems to be a policy, a de facto policy with the Biden administration and the FBI and the Department of Justice to tamp down information that the public should have access to.
Well, this is contrary. See, but that was my point here. This is contrary to the notion that government policy rewriting our rules on transgenderism would fix this.
Yeah.
Because you can't fix this.
So they don't want any bad news about transitioning. So the FBI tells the Nashville police, hey, don't print that manifesto. And in fact, the Star got it from, legally, they say, they got it from some kind of confidential source, probably within the police department.
Yeah.
I would guess.
So, I mean, look, this is like tamping out, like you said, tamping out information that's contrary to what you think things ought to be.
And the judge in the case, because they sued the Nashville police to get this, and they were turned down by the judge. So now the judge is taking the editor of the Star, because they published this week, and asking the editor to come, demanding the editor.
Yeah, now there's going to be a show cause hearing. Where'd you get it? Or a contempt hearing of some sort.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you, Steve. So I'm just putting this out there. So this does not emanate from any hate or any kind of, there's, hi, dog.
Yeah, Dexter's here.
You see that tail wagging? That means that the show's got to end because Dexter needs to go.
That's right.
Final thing, Steve, and this has to do with school choice here in Ohio. Our Attorney General, Dave Yost, here in Ohio, has put out an opinion to public school districts that they need to continue doing the busing of any student that's more than 2 miles away from the school, no matter if it's a charter school or a private school. That's their obligation under Ohio law. And many of the school districts, right, are trying to discharge that cost because they no longer have that student. But yet they're getting public dollars to transport that student, but they don't want to provide the transportation. And Dave Yost has said, bullshit, you're going to provide it.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to get Yost. Maybe we'll get Dave Yost on the show.
That'd be great.
I'd love to hear his thoughts on some things. But well, look, I promised we'd wrap it up quickly today. We're going to wrap it up quickly today. We have come at you with another episode of Common Sense Ohio, where you can check us out at commonsenseohioshow.com. Lots of stuff there. Norm's blog, all the back episodes, links to hook up with our social media, links to subscribe to the show. And it's starting to catch on. People are checking out the reels and doing things. So we do appreciate your involvement. We appreciate your interaction. And most important, even if you don't agree, we encourage that discourse the most. Why? Because I'm an idiot. I admit I'm an idiot. I do my best to learn. And when I'm wrong, call me out. I'll have the embarrassment of being wrong, but I would much rather have the embarrassment of being wrong than continuing to be wrong. That would be far more embarrassing.
And if you're Alpo or Purina, we will feature Dexter eating your food on this show and promoting Common Sense Ohio with Dexter as a frequent guest. So please sponsor us.
Yeah, we're looking for dog food sponsors.
Dog food sponsors.
That's right. So, all right. Well, Common Sense Ohio show coming at you right from the middle every week. Until now, we will see you next week.